We avoid the topic that dad's been in the bedroom for the past 4 years, just dying of alcoholism, and mom does everything.
Mm.
Secrets, um, family member harmed another family member.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Family keeps it secret, right?
Right.
And then there's the feeling unseen, walking on eggshells, and kids, of course, taking on adult roles.
Right.
That's that's all a recipe of family dysfunction. We struggle with culturally, right? We struggle with truly wanting from a great, wonderful place to honor our parents, to honor our family.
Right.
And as Black people, we often say, for everything that my grandmother had to get through for us to get here.
Right.
Many of us have dope in our family background, alcoholism, poverty, right? All
Right.
of these
Right.
things. So we make a lot of excuses. But what we know that this is not the science tells us, the statistics tell us that it's not doing us any good to
Mhm.
continue to excuse family dysfunction.
Welcome to Unapologetically 50 Plus. My name is Angela. So today we are going to be talking about healing family trauma, redefining freedom and family and belonging. So, as we know, every family has its secrets. For women, those unspoken stories often turn into silence, guilt, or invisible weight. But what happens when the very people who were supposed to protect you are the ones who shape your deepest wounds? So, today we're going to peel back the layers of family dysfunction and trauma to explore how those hidden legacies shape the women we become and how we can rewrite the story. And the perfect person to have this discussion with is Miss Temple Jackson. If you've seen her, you guys have seen her before on my podcast. She's a licensed social worker and therapist. But before we get started, I have one huge favor to ask. If you find any value or enjoy the content, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. And now you can also follow me on Spotify. And if you're already listening on Spotify, please leave a rating or review. This helps other women find this space. And please share this with a woman who might enjoy our conversations. I thank you and I truly appreciate your support. Okay, let's bring on Miss Temple Jackson and let's get this conversation started. Hey Temple, how you doing, love?
I'm well. Hello, Angela. Very nice to see you. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, it's always a pleasure having you on. So, when we were trying to decide what we wanted to discuss, you wanted to, because last time I picked the subject, so this time you got to pick the
You
subject.
did.
What was the reason why you wanted to, talk about this?
Okay, so again, good to see everyone. I hope you're watching and nice to see you again, Angela, always, and to connect with you. This topic, the topic of why family can't always be enough, especially amongst Black people and cultures of people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Black people, but Indian families, Latino families, Asian families. There is a whole other cultural, and then you get into the African diaspora, right? You get into the Nigerian expectations, Nigerian American expectations. So I'm just saying that of people of color, the idea of family being everything has been drilled into us from the very beginning. But family can't be everything because our families sometimes expose us to a lot of harm. And so, as a licensed clinical therapist with a private practice, a lot of folks are coming and they have a lot of trauma that comes from their early childhood experience, trauma with their families. And it's been very difficult for them to break free from this, set some boundaries, develop themselves set apart from that family orb because it's been drilled into them over the decades, over time, over generations, that family is everything. And no matter what goes on here in this family, family is everything. And I think this is damaging.
Mm,
Family can't be everything.
no.
So this is a big topic, and I think it's taboo to a certain extent. But folks who understand that family can't be everything is not everything for them. People who have a chosen family, understand this.
Yeah.
So I just thought it would be good to uncover this idea that family is everything, to expose it as not
Yeah.
true.
That's also, kind of like when people, because of course when you get married, that's your family. But when your husband and your husband and wife, your husband shouldn't be and can't be your everything. That's a huge responsibility. And I know we're probably talking more about, childhood family, mom, dad, sister, brother, cousins, aunts, uncles.
Sure.
But it also, I would think, also plays into when you're married, your husband and your wife shouldn't be and can't be your everything. So, but anyway, we're not talking
No,
about
I
that
think you're
relationships.
right. No, I listen. I think you're right. I think you're correct. Excuse me. And I would go a little bit further to say you're absolutely right. And how, if we enter into a marital relationship situation, and I believe that's one of the questions that you asked me when we were discussing this, how does that model of family loyalty, no matter what, play into adulthood relationships? What kinds of, in what ways do we not establish or lower our boundaries because we've been taught that, you know, family loyalty beyond anything else? How many times have we stuffed our pain or our feelings or our thoughts, just
Mm,
under a carpet somewhere? So
right,
I think how we show up in the marriage and the relationship, not just marriage, but in the work relationship, has a lot to do with where it starts,
right,
if it makes any sense.
definitely. So when you think about family dysfunction, what does it look like and feel like in everyday life? And so what are some of the signs women might miss?
All right. So not just so women are more likely to absorb the whatever's happening, the heartbeat of the family, right? If that made the pulse of the family, young girl children are more likely to absorb that.
Yeah.
Even if there are older brothers at home, it's kind of a trap of younger brothers, and you're second parent. If you have an older brother, they're sort of like the chosen one, and they get up right. So,
Yes.
but the girl, yeah, I think Angela can relate. And so, what they were the young girls. So, but when things have not been horrible, terrible, it's so family dysfunction is not just shouting, it's silence, avoidance, secrets,
Mm,
and signs that women have to, or girls have to look out for are, how has my past of having to growing up in a home where we were silent when dad was shouting at mother, or my mother, we avoid the topic that, and these are stories like without names that I hear all the time. We avoid the topic that dad's been in the bedroom for the past 4 years, just dying of alcoholism, and mom does everything.
mm,
Secrets, um, family member harmed another family member.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Family keeps it secret, right?
Right.
And then there's the feeling unseen, walking on eggshells, and kids, of course, taking on adult roles.
Right.
That's that's all a recipe of family dysfunction.
Mm, okay.
And what we struggle with culturally, right? We struggle with truly wanting from a great, wonderful place to honor our parents, to honor our family.
Right.
And as Black people, we often say, for everything that my grandmother had to get through for us to get here.
Right.
Many of us have dope in our family background, alcoholism, poverty, right? All
Right.
of these
Right.
things. So we make a lot of excuses but what we know that this is not the statistics, the science tells us, the statistics tell us that this is not, it's not doing us any good to continue to excuse family dysfunction.
Mm. From your experience, what are some of the deepest ways childhood trauma shows up in a woman's adulthood, emotionally, spiritually, even physically?
Big one for me is low self-worth.
Mm.
Beautiful women, gorgeous from the outside, really gorgeous from the inside,
Mm-hmm.
but allowing without the ability to say no to things that they secretly resent. That the sense of low self-worth that someone else should come before me, or I would feel guilty leaving this relationship, even though for the past 18 years he's drank and is driven home drunk.
Right.
Well, who else is going to take care of the kids? All of
Right.
this may be true, but
Mm.
none of it is enough to stay in an abusive relationship. But when we have been modeled that, right, growing up, we have in adulthood, if you've experienced this childhood trauma, we we are really fighting uphill to develop a strong sense of self, right?
Right.
Therefore, the self-esteem, anxiety, depression, problem solving without creating anxiety. Big one, rumination. Rumination disorder is really big in
Explain that a little
adults.
bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so rumination disorder is when you have a thought, there's a pattern of thinking
Mm-hmm.
that you play over and over, and you just ruminate over and over, day in and day out, hour in and hour out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think about where your anxiety, your everything is going up and down at this point. All of your hormone levels, your serotonins, your everything is flying. And I'm not good at getting into the heavy medical details. The point is
Right.
that this rumination, no one loves me, no one's ever gonna like me. They'll never be on my side about this. I have to keep this to myself for the rest of my life, or else the whole family will turn against me. Whatever the rumination is, people who have rumination disorder get stuck on these loops of catastrophizing, catastrophe thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard. So we work with clients, we work with people who are experiencing rumination disorder with dialectical behavior therapy, because so we have cognitive behavior therapy, which says, okay, I have a behavior, so I'm going to change this behavior, I'm going to replace it with this, replace it with something else. The old joke of seeing someone as an example popping a rubber band on their wrist instead
Yeah.
of lighting the cigarette, right? So changing the behavior, instead of doing this, I'm going to do this. With dialectical behavior therapy, we it's a little bit smarter, because dialectical behavior theory says, wait a second, the behavior is the birth child of the thought. So it's the thought that we have to address. It's the thought you
Mm.
want to change, right? And by changing the thought, you're creating a new neuropath.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Rumination. So we use methods like dialectical behavior therapy to address rumination disorder. And rumination disorder is exhausting. But in that, of course, you have the anxiety, the depression, the low self-esteem, physical symptoms, headaches, constant headaches, stomach aches, stomach issues,
Yeah.
bowel issues. That's a big one for adult survivors of childhood trauma, overachieving and self sabotage,
Oh.
which can be one and the same, you know?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So do you think these patterns shift or intensify as women move into midlife?
absolutely. I mean, I think anything shifts or intensifies if it hasn't been addressed,
Okay. Okay.
robustly addressed.
Yeah.
Uh, with intention. So if a doctor tells me I have pre-diabetes and then I tell them to go, jerk off somewhere and I don't take my medication or change my
Right.
behavior pattern, you know, I love it because my patients tell me all the time, no, I'm not going to take an antidepressant, but you'll drink a bottle of wine every night.
Oh, okay.
Right. So nothing changes, nothing changes. And the older we get, yes, the more stuck in these patterns are. We can change at any time. Listen, we can make up our minds at any time. We can make a change. It's not going to be miraculous or perfect.
Right.
But at 60 years old, nearly 61, I'm still learning things and I am still making changes and adjustments in my person and who I am. So we can do it. But when it comes to this childhood trauma, Angela, uh, whew, it's just really recommended that you start working with a therapist really early. Get to a therapist in your 20s
Yeah.
and start working through this so that you can, while you're still young and still moldable, right? You can
Right.
start to shift some of your thinking and some of the ways you look at yourself and see yourself.
Okay. So how
Yeah.
does that early trauma weave itself into a woman's relationship, whether it's love, friendship, or, even the job?
Number one thing is difficult with trust, difficult trusting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you had trauma, if you were neglected,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if love was on a shortage, was parsed out, you may have difficulty trusting someone. If you grew up in a household where one of the parents, usually the man, it's just the way, it's just the numbers. I don't care. This is a show for women.
That's right.
Has an affair, has multiple affairs, a woman coming into her adult years might be really distrustful of that and might even work in a self-sabotaging way around the type of partner she chooses,
So
att-
I'm
which
sorry,
brings me to attracting unhealthy partners.
I was going to ask, so if a young girl sees her father doing that, is that what you mean? Or that's something in
Absolutely.
her own. So if
No.
it's okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. I just wanted to
Yeah.
ask that question because
Absolutely.
so that can impact that young girl in her future relationships
How
potentially.
she chooses the value. So we have two things going on. We have in this, using this example, we have a father in the household. This is, we've all heard it. It happens. It's common. That's just the bottom line. We have a father in the household that's having affairs, multiple affairs.
Mm,
The children are aware. The mom is aware. Everyone is aware. The mom maybe is passive or they're fighting about it or just simply allows it to happen. She stays, again, for all of the reasons said and all the reasons unsaid. We could get into ad infinitum why someone stays. It's very important. I did my thesis on this. But the issue is that the a young child, boy and girl, will be watching that play out between their parents, and this would be the first and the only real solid example they have of what relationship is: standards and expectations. So the boy child, the science tells us the boy child might be, and I'm being gender specific right now, right? So the boy child might it has a is more likely to act out that behavior and have many lovers may be unfaithful, right? Because this is the model that he saw in the father. And the girl child is more likely to be tolerant of this behavior,
mm,
which is the model she received from mother.
wow.
Yeah.
So how can a
So
oh go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. So this thing about, attracting unhealthy partners, and then people pleasing, of course, over giving or withdrawing. So there's like that over giving and withdrawing is kind of a double-edged sword.
Mm. So how can a woman tell the difference between a genuine connection and a trauma bond?
Mm. Trauma bonding is such a tough one, you know. Listen, I think, Angela, in order for us to have a genuine connection with anyone, we have to have some sense of who we are. We have to know who we are so that we know what it is we want to connect to, what it is, right, that feels, what my vibe is, where my energy is, what are my values, right, what things am I compassionate about? And there has to be some discernment. There has to be passionate about is what I meant to say. There has to be some sense of knowing yourself and then allowing yourself to get to know someone over time. No one wants to court anymore, but courting is really important and it is not old fashioned. What's old fashioned is every 2 months sleeping with a new guy you met online because in 2 months we think we know everything. So now we're already in bed. And then on the third month, you realize you can't stand the sight of each other. But if you just court a little bit longer, you have space and time to get to know each other. But we want everything right now. Give it to me now.
Right, right.
Oh, I gotta sleep with them right now so I know if we're sexually compatible. Okay, give it some time, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've heard people say that before, and I don't know, to me, is that an excuse for you to sleep with this person, or you truly believe, in your heart that I need to find out if we're sexually compatible before I even find out if I truly like this person? Because I think what
Correct.
people fail to realize is, especially, in that male female relationship and being married 30 years, it's not, as time goes on, it's less about the sex and really more about, do I really like this person enough to even want to have sex with you? You know, over the
Absolutely.
long haul. You got to have something compatible or something that you both, have an interest in, or you want to build, have goals together, because as time goes on, that intense sexual desire, it does fade. It doesn't disappear necessarily, but it does fade. And then what do you have left if you really can't stand this person? So, I mean, I know
Well,
that's a
this,
whole different story,
oh,
but
no, 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 that's not that.
I mean, I'm just, being married 30 years,
Angela.
being married 30 years,
Absolutely. You know a little something about this. Well, I think the thing is, too, is that sex is very important. Sexual connection, sexual chemistry is very important in a relationship.
yeah,
But I think if we, on a list, on a priority list, I'm not sure that it's the most important thing. I'm not saying to enter into a relationship if you don't have sexual compatibility.
right.
Having sex with your partner is very important, or
Yeah,
sexual intimacy with your partner is very important because it builds empathy. The
yeah,
couple continues to build an empathy, a desire to be empathetic toward the other because of the level of intimacy involved with sex and sex play. So
right.
it's very important, right, in a relationship. But you have to like someone because there are relationships where the sex is, I hear, amazing, and the relationship is brutal.
Yeah, yeah.
And sex alone, right, can't. But if you
Can't put it
if you
together.
share
Yeah,
the same values, if you have the same sense of women's rights is important to you both in the same way,
right,
poverty, politics, religion, right, the way your view of the world and yourself and the world around you, right, these are values,
right,
this is the long game.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the long game. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And so in terms of your question, um, if in when we've had childhood trauma, we can we should always know that the connection is inauthentic if we are we are willing to compromise ourselves and our very sense of who we're pleasing, we're going along with things where when we secretly resent them, if we are having a difficult time speaking our truth with courage and requisite time, if we find ourselves acquiescing because we believe that this is really good and we need to make this work for us, then we're probably working on inauthentic connection. The genuine connection comes from knowing who you are. And because you know who you are, these are the attributes that I'm looking for in a partner.
Okay. So, as we know, many women end up carrying their families on their backs. Instead of just why, what does the responsibility cost them in their bodies and in their freedom?
Yeah, so, always, and I've been working for the past several weeks really robustly with a couple of patients on using the book, The Body Keeps the Score. And it is the golden source and letter. And I say, find someone else to write a better book, and then great, we'll start using both. This is such an important book. So The Body Keeps the Score, really, we're talking about this part, we connect to disease factors, disease process. I mean, we're carrying our families on our backs, and we've had a history of the women doing this over generations. Well, we're carrying our families. Sometimes people are in situations where they are the only one that can do the caring, and God bless them, because that is real.
Yeah.
Uh, God bless them. But oftentimes we're picking up and carrying all the things when it's not required of us, and we're picking up and carrying all the things because we're afraid to set boundaries. And we don't set boundaries when we don't believe that we're worthy of that boundary respect.
Yeah.
Or when the neglect is so deep inside of us, Angela, that we can't be okay. We must seek all of our validation through doing for others, even to the point of it collapsing us. And then the other side of that is resentment. And I hear it all the time. They made me do this. I did all of this. Wouldn't they have? No, hey, yo, you let that happen
Yeah.
for poignant reasons, right? Not blaming the victim, but breaking out of these patterns is really important. Loss of joy, loss of dreams, and again, poor health.
Mm.
If you're carrying it all, or you have convinced yourself that you must carry it all, you're having a hard time breaking away from carrying it all, it leaves very little space for your own personal dreams and goals and joy.
Yeah. Mm.
And then it begins to really impact things like your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health.
Okay. And then what
Yeah.
happens to the body when that trauma goes unhealed?
Chronic stress. Inflammation is a big one. There's a great study going on right now at Johns Hopkins about inflammation connected to chronic stress and childhood trauma, like throughout the body and the legs and the arms and the fingers and the wrists. High
Wow.
blood pressure, autoimmune issues, huge.
Wow.
Trauma stored in the body, right in the limbic system. Um, I noticed a new, very popular massage. I love body work. I'm not a Reiki person. Doesn't work for me. I want your
Oh, okay.
hands, body moving. Right.
Don't be hovering. Just get
No,
in
do
there.
not hover. You need to touch me. Give me some fingers. And but there's a very new popular, not very new, but a popular massage right now in America. I've had it in Europe over the decades, but it's the limbic draining, right? Draining the nervous system. And I
Mm.
think this is the science is super clear. It's acupressure, acupuncture, massage therapy, are all using the meridian points. This is not made up in some foo-foo kitchen,
Right.
right? These are
Right.
the meridian points, and they work, and they've been used for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so, similarly, when we have trauma, whether it's blunt trauma, we've fallen off of a ladder, or we've been abused, or we're being yelled at every day, or bossed around, that's trauma storing itself in the limbic system.
Hmm. Okay.
And trauma is serious. By the way, we used to call our ERs, emergency rooms. But, there's been a movement to change that to trauma units over the years. And that's
Mm,
why you see that change
yeah.
because trauma is real.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
never know what it looks like. Some of trauma is not visible to the naked eye.
Right. Now we you talked about this a little bit earlier, and when you talked about trauma or excuse me, dysfunction doesn't necessarily mean shouting or chaos. So how can silence in a family be just as traumatic?
Well, silence can be as aggressive as a loud noise. Being ignored, being made to feel or feeling invisible,
Hmm.
this comes out of silence.
Mm.
Watching a parent be silent when a father is abusive or a mother when it, right? So no, but just silence
Hmm.
when someone dies violently and the family never talks about it and your grief never gets, right? Because we don't
Right.
talk about things like that in this household.
Right. Right.
Silence around, young clients that I have the pleasure, the honor to see who are non-binary or gay and grow up in very big Christian families or other religious families. And,
Hmm.
no one's harming anyone, but you're just not talking about it. That's harm.
Mm.
It teaches us that my needs don't matter. Just, so it's just as wounding, right?
Yeah.
As it is as a loud conflict.
And how does that shape the way how we use or lose our voices?
Yeah, it's rinse and repeat, right? These are the first models we have. I mean, either at a young age, our voices are encouraged or they're discouraged.
Okay.
And we come out of the chute, and from the very first moment, that's why they say get that baby on the breast, get them next to your heart as soon as possible.
Yeah.
We start developing an attachment style. If the baby cries out, wah, 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 and
Right.
within seconds the mom comes in and grabs her, okay, change the diaper, gives her, and
Right.
okay, she puts the baby down, he cries out again, wah, wah, wah. Here she comes, she lifts the baby up, wraps him, gives him some milk, gives him some love. That baby over time is developing a sense that when I cry out into the world, they listen, they come to me. When I go to school, I'm more likely to raise my hand, right? I
Mm.
expect that people want to hear what I have to say, but if a child cries out, a baby, wah, wah, a minute passes, 2 minutes, we've all heard. You remember what it sounded like when those babies go off the crying chain and
Yeah.
it's like an engine coming down the street? That child is already in their nervous system is already developing a sense that, oh my God, I can be in this position and no one's coming for me. Oh my God. So now I'm crying louder and louder. Then a mother, let's say the mother comes like, okay, okay. And she takes care of the baby, but she's got this energy, right?
Yeah.
Cry, kid cries out again. Oh, what are you doing crying? Sense that, ooh, I better not cry out over time. That
Oh,
kid goes to school, they sit in the back of the class, definitely not interested in raising their hands. Well, what happens if they don't choose me? What happens if I sound stupid? What happens if people make fun of me? So it really starts with that early attachment.
okay.
Um, yeah, I hope that, and this is
Oh,
very much passed down. I hope that answered.
yeah. Yeah. It did.
Mhm.
So intergenerational trauma. How have you seen it shape the way women step into being mothers, daughters, and even partners?
Yeah, yeah. Everything we talked about, passed down survival patterns, right?
Wow.
Passed down survival patterns. My mother did it this way, my grandmother did it this way. And I'll tell you, I've heard this play out in all kinds of different ways. This is the greatest thing about being a therapist. For example, my grandmother was not me personally. This will be just a story, an example. My grandmother was very good at getting money out of men. Uh-huh. And she set that standard that, man, you're supposed to get your money,
Yeah.
that go into the relationship not for love, but to get yours.
Okay.
And really puts a passionate reason and argument and lesson of development around why this is important. And yet all of that, right, stems back to her losing love, not getting love, and being told that she has no purpose, that the best thing you can do is turn a trick and make your money because a man is never going to love you.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, but this is passed down and it's seen as a virtue. Get that money, get that money.
Yeah.
Um, Passed down survival patterns. And we get it because if you were a Black woman in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, as much as you hated it, you might be motivated to use all your tools and all your skills to feed your family,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
I want to ask you now, this is kind of um it's not one of my questions I sent you. But now when we're talking about passing down trauma, and I always try and look at it from the perspective since I was adopted,
Yeah.
if you go into a family like at age 3 or 4, and prior to that, you're in foster care, can and you have a great parent, you have a great family that you've been adopted
Mhm.
into, can their patterns or can their teachings override what you might have learned when you're, in foster care? So for me, I was in foster care for, up until age 3. And then after
Yeah,
that,
go
went into
ahead,
a great
Angela.
family. But how do what they have taught me override? And can it override what you potentially have been taught in foster care?
Okay, so yes, yes, maybe is the answer. So we're talking about nature versus nurture, right? The nature is the genetics, who you came from, your biological mother that carried the seed, you came out of her belly, her DNA imprint and impact on you. And then and also, the early, even whether you remember it or not, and we really do not expect children to have memories before the age of 4 years old. Although certainly there are people that have memories between the ages of 3 and 4, but we basically say, we can sort of loosely go by memories before the age of 5, just really loose. But the memories are not the early childhood experience still leaves an imprint or an impact. And that's this really powerful part about where that goes. It goes right into the limbic system, right? It's like a file drawer that's down the hall in the dusty room.
Hmm.
And one day something happens, and next thing you know, you're sorry, I've got my phone is dinging, and I just need to shut it off, and I just remembered how to do that, so it's gone now. Yeah. Need I say any more about the aging and the memory process? Um, right. So you may not have memories, but there may be something hanging around that's part of that nature, right? That first 3 years in foster care, we don't know necessarily what that nurturing process was. Okay, but then you go to this wonderful adopted family. You had a wonderful mother, as I know,
Hmm.
and you felt loved and all of that good stuff.
Hmm.
And that experience alone. One, the child is still young, so there is absolutely an opportunity to redirect the nurturing to fill the space of where it was absent, um, and or to support or correct any leanings in terms of mental health or emotional stability. But we always say if the child is young, it's too soon, right? It's too soon because the truth is love matters a lot and love does heal. Nurturing heals, caring
Mhm.
heals. And sometimes things happen in the nature, in the biological experience that we can't shake, or
Okay.
we need more support, even if we were loved to pieces, right, in a foster in an adopted family. We might still have some of that to work out. And for
Mm.
people that don't get to know their natural parents or understand their natural parents' health, it can be very really daunting,
Mhm. Okay.
particularly if you had a loving adopted family and everything was good for, for the most part, nothing really extraordinary, but you have clinical depression. It is
Mm.
highly likely that that birth mother or that birth father struggled with clinical depression, and it's clinical, not situational. And so knowing that, being able to at least understand the health if you can, and this is very difficult for many adopted children, is important because it will come up in our later years.
Mm. Okay. Okay. I had to ask that one because it just was in
Oh,
the
so I
back of my
think it's
mind. I was
wonderful.
like,
I think it's great. Yeah.
so as where was I? See, I lost my
You're
space.
having a senior moment
I
now.
am. I'm having a
Ah,
senior moment because
but you
I
still
threw
have a
that.
year.
I know, huh? I threw
Yeah,
that
you still have
extra
a year.
question in there and threw me off.
Well, I have that one last question you brought
Oh,
up, which was how does culture affect women's pain?
okay. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know that question or you even want to, but that was a question. And so that brings us back to the John Henry, right? That
Oh,
strong black woman myth
oh,
silences, we're so strong, we silence our struggle. It's in Black women, but it's in a lot of cultural families. I just met with a patient who's a Jewish woman, and the expectations, the ideas about who we need to be in our culture, silencing the pain to remain strong.
right.
And it's just it's not helpful.
No,
And we need to start telling our sisters it's not impressive either.
no, it's not.
I'd
It's
stop
not.
doing that. Yeah. Shame of stigma, right? So back to that shame of stigma, what it would look like? What would it look like if I let my family suffer, if I didn't do these things for my family? You know, we can't all be our family's keepers,
Right.
particularly if the family is like a barrel of crabs and a toxic stew, right? We're not supposed to go back there, right, and
Right.
fix that.
But
So we
even,
have,
I'm
yeah,
gonna say,
go
even when
ahead.
you said that suffering,
Mm.
what, I mean, are we really letting our family suffer, or is that just something in our own minds
That's a
that,
projection.
yeah, a
Exactly.
projection? Right.
Yeah,
Right.
no, we're not. We're not Captain Save It All, right? We're not Captain Do It All. We're not, no, we weren't made, and we were not made to do that, and none of us can do this alone. But back to this issue, right? If we are conditioned and through these early childhood experiences, especially the children, the latchkey kids, the ones that were parentified like me, standing on, milk cartons. Yep, back in those days, they were actually milk cartons, at 6 and 7 years old, trying to cook meals or
Yeah.
boil some water, a potato or something for my brothers,
Yeah.
just based on what I could see from what someone was doing.
Right.
That sense of that I've got to save this show. I've got to
Right.
do it for us. So that goes into the limbic system as well, right? So we're opening up these pores and allowing these old ways to drain out while saying different things to ourselves, re- changing the thought, replacing it with another thought, letting it like a hot frying egg on a stellar nonstick pan, so hot. You crack that egg on the pan, right? It's got some oil. It starts to sizzle up. You lift it to the side. That egg is going to slide right off. We have to let these thoughts slide right off. We have to let these things that we say to ourselves slide right off and replace it with something new and fresh and freedom centered,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then hopefully we can create new neural paths. But um, a lot of our pain gets hidden to protect the family name.
Mm,
And it is not any one of our job to protect the family name, particularly if the true name is nasty. You
true
know?
that. True that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Protect the family name. Why?
Right. Right. So dysfunction isn't always loud, and sometimes it's just baked into our family traditions, or that's just how it goes. We've heard that all saying, "Hey, that's just how we do things." But so, what are some of the subtle ways dysfunction kind of sneaks in?
Well, that is certainly one way, right? This is how we do things. Or, you never said that to me before, when we start to try to develop boundaries, erect boundaries. Uh, yeah, gaslighting.
Yes.
I'm just an ignorant old bloke, something like that. I didn't know you felt this way about it. All of those things, all of those ways. Listen, when we know that our family is dysfunctional and we know that being a part of the dysfunction is not serving anyone in any way that has anything to do with the God of anybody's understanding, it's time to either remove oneself, no contact relationships, or limited contact relationships. Very boundaried. Hey, I love you both very much. I'm not going to have a conversation about mom. If you bring mom into the conversation, I'm going to politely hang up. No, it's not dishonoring. It's honoring oneself.
Right.
We're breaking patterns. It stops here. The dysfunction stops here. The domestic violence stops with me. The dysfunction stops with me. The silence stops with me.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
So, how can women begin to untangle which traditions to keep and which ones to release?
I think that it's probably really important for everyone to do some sort of, let's call it a spiritual and moral inventory, right? Like an
Okay.
inventory of what is meaningful to you. And for the purposes of this inventory, only keep everyone else out of it.
Mm,
What is meaningful and purposeful to me? What is it in my life? And an inventory around your feelings about your worth, your feelings about your sense of responsibility,
hmm
your feelings about the fear you have to stand in your word and be firm in your word.
Yeah.
So some kind of and I do have a framework for this that I can send to you, Angela, if anyone is interested. And I took it from the model, the 12-step model,
hmm
uh, fourth and the fifth step. And this is a complete inventory, spiritual, mental, personal inventory of who I've been up to now. And then we move into acceptance commitment therapy, and we develop a commitment for self to
Oh,
begin to
okay.
honor self
Mm,
in different ways. None of this is selfish, um, but self care often requires us to center ourselves around ourselves.
okay.
Just the way they ask you to put that mask on first on the plane, and we've all used that one
Right. Right.
ad infinitum, but it's real.
So what emotions come up when a woman decides she doesn't want to carry the dysfunction? Because we know breaking the cycles, it's hard. So
The
what are some of
usual
those
guilt,
emotions?
shame,
Okay.
guilt, shame, fear, fear of other people's reactions, guilt that, you know, I should do better. And we'll even tell ourselves, oh, I said, I would do this. It's my fault. Sure, but guess what? We get to change our minds.
Right.
But being honest about what we can carry, but it's always the guilt and it's always the shame, a sense of obligation. These are easy, these are easy neuropaths to reroute.
Oh, okay. Okay. And maybe the what ifs. What if I don't do it? Will it all fall apart? What if I
That's the
don't
fear,
carry?
the sense
That's
of
the fear.
obligation. Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's still a part of, and then some of that becomes arrogant. Who said you could do it all? Who said, that you're the mighty one?
Yeah.
But we want to be, we're searching for validation and
Yeah.
overgiving and overdoing. And if it's been modeled, we have to break free. That's a chain. It's got to be broken.
So how does she hold on to her choice when, you got family pushback? How do you hold on to that choice of I'm not going to or
Yeah, you stand your ground. You stand your ground because you have decided, you came to believe that a power greater than yourself can return you to sanity. You came to accept that there's a dysfunctional pattern that's been playing out and it has not been benefiting me and not benefiting me in my life. And it's not benefiting the other play actors in my life because nothing's getting better. So we came to believe, we came to accept,
Mhm.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, other people, the
Right.
courage to change the things I can, me, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
And then we make a commitment around that.
Right.
That we must change it because we don't want to wake up 10 years from now and be 10 years older and
Right.
10 years more entrenched in these poor self-sabotaging patterns
Right.
of choosing, retreating, behaving.
Right.
Yeah,
And making those changes, I'm sure it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. And I
it
think that's
takes,
the hard part because,
huh.
you're trying to stick to your guns or you're trying to, make these changes. And it's easy to fall back into, well, maybe this one time I'll do it, or, you know,
Well, relapse is a part of change, right? Stages
right,
of change, right? So, just to review the stages of change were originally developed for around alcoholism and addiction. And then the stages of change began to be widely used for grief, right? So the stages of change are wonderful. So when we apply stages of change to dysfunction, so the first stage is always pre-contemplation. Yes, and by the way, you're right. It will take a lot of time, but we get on the road and we start with the steps, right? So
right.
pre-contemplation, this is where we haven't yet acknowledged that there is a problem. This is just how my family is, normalizing the yelling and the screaming and the disrespect and the silence, may even defend or minimize the dysfunction. The
Mm,
second step is contemplation, becoming aware. Our friends and people around us have said, this does not seem right or healthy. So there's an awareness developing. Something feels off, but I'm not sure what. Recognizing exhaustion, sadness, or health issues tied to family dynamics. Every time I spend a week with them, I'm sick. I have headaches for a week. We may still be ambivalent, but saying, oh, maybe it's not so bad, but we're contemplating
okay.
that maybe I need to do something. Preparation is getting ready to make changes. We begin seeking therapy, books, podcasts, right? We set small boundaries. I can't talk right now. Maybe we start not responding to some of those text messages, not picking up the phone as much. We start imagining a possible different way of living.
Yeah.
And then step four, action. We start making change, actively set and hold boundaries, redefine relationships, limited or no contact. We talked
Mhm.
about that at another time. I can go into that more. This is really big. And many families have to make individuals, we have to make decisions around whether or not we can even have any contact with family members.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to tell my clients who have been sexually assaulted and abused by members in their family that they have to sit at those Christmas dinner tables. I don't think so. That's a no contact situation. You
Right.
know, I don't
Right.
care that your family. Practicing self-care builds healthier, communities too. So in that action, you're getting help, you're setting boundaries, you're redefining relationships, you're building support systems. And the
Mhm.
maintenance, right? You're doing the thing and you keep doing it, continuing the boundary work, even under pressure. If the question is, what if they don't respect it? You keep repeating, you keep doing the same thing over and over. You never veer from the script or the course, choosing healthier relationships and environments, recognizing relapse signs,
Mhm.
guilt slipping back in old roles, and we'll start to recover quicker. And then, of course, relapse, right?
Right.
Relapse wasn't a part of the original 5 stages, and we brought the scientists, right? All of us therapists, psychologists, licensed clinical social workers recognize that relapse is just a part of recovery.
Okay.
So we may fall back into old patterns, overgiving, guilt, silence. So what's the key learning? What pulled me back and what I need to do right now. I may relapse, but the only lesson here is what was it that pulled me back and how do I right size myself again right now?
Mm.
That's what I
Okay.
got for you.
That's a therapy session right there in itself, y'all.
Girl,
So,
Angela gave me 30 minutes after my full day of seeing patients.
so freedom is a big word. And in your eyes, what does true freedom look like when women finally step out of those old family patterns?
Yeah. Freedom is when we go, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Um, I'll say a prayer for you. And then
Okay.
not feeling guilty about it, not doing any more than that.
Okay.
Freedom is knowing that no God of anyone's understanding put you here to do it all on your own or to be the master of it. Freedom is living your life,
Yeah.
getting closer to your own personal goals, developing yourself, your heart, your joy. Freedom is smiling every day,
Yeah.
laughing, walking down the street, with your headphones on and doing a little twist. Don't care.
Yeah.
Freedom is a lot of it has to do with caring less, not about important things, but caring less about what other people think about me. And
Okay.
listen, if we're not going out to strike harm, that you know, we've got to be a little bit more gentle with ourselves.
That. That.
That.
Mm,
hmm And
absolutely.
I definitely don't subscribe to forsaking oneself to save anything,
Yeah.
to pretend to save anything that's been broken into 1,000 pieces before Hector was a pup. You know that old saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I this subject of family dysfunction is very important. And I don't think it's fair that Black families, Black women should have to feel that they need to continue to pretend that this dysfunction is not happening, hasn't happened, and that it hasn't impacted our lives. So that's one thing. But the second part is taking hold of it and deciding not to live those patterns forward and
Yeah.
believing you have agency over that, choosing to do it differently, letting it, saying it stops here, it stops right here, it
Mm,
stops with me.
stops with me. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess that's my message. And of course, Angela, if anyone ever wants to speak more
Oh,
with
yeah.
me about these issues, they can look me up at wordupcounseling.com.
And her information will be in the description.
Yeah,
So I'll make sure there's a link so you don't have to think about it. Just press the
yeah.
link.
But
Um,
like and subscribe.
exactly. Um, and when blood family isn't safe or even enough, how can women build new definitions of family or even belonging of home?
Yeah, yeah. Chosen friends, man. I've always said I have this theory that God never meant for us to be in these sort of, isolated family units. He just, he dropped us down in groups so we could get the things cooking, get the fire going, well, we were always meant to be family. We were all family. I know this is a heavy thought to subscribe to, but I believe that we are all connected. Whether we can all make the connection is another story. There's so many reasons in the modern world why we might not be able to do that. But if we leave ourselves open to this idea that these people that I share blood with are not the only ones, that those families of choice, those some people only have family, chosen family. That is beautiful. That's wonderful. So knowing that there's even someone just like you out there looking for you. So building communities, going to places, and then about 15 years ago, there was a bridge game that would happen in the park in Balboa Park in San Diego. And
Mm,
I wanted to desperately, I love playing cards, I love bridge, I love spades. And I wanted to go in and be a part of it, but I looked in and looked like a bunch of old fogies, right? And I'm like, I'm not going to go in there and play bridge with those old white folks. And then I finally went in there one day, man. It was just awesome. I played for a year, and I would get in there and cut up with those guys, and it was wonderful. Yeah, finding your family,
finding your
keeping an
family.
open mind about where that family is and who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
you are
Anything else you want to add before we head on out of here? I know you've had a long day, so I appreciate you coming on.
no
And
problem. Be kind, people. I just want to say, be kind. Let the lies and the clicks and the dysfunctions go, and just be kind. Be better humans. It's
Mm,
important. And know thyself, you
right.
know? Because if you don't, man, this world is going to tell you all kinds of things about you. But be
Mm.
kind. Be kind. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I like that.
You're welcome. It's always lovely to come and see you do this little monthly installment.
Yes, yes. You always come with the wisdom. So, all right, you
I
guys, that's it for this episode. So please remember to like, subscribe. I will have Temple's information in the description below. So please check her out. She's an amazing woman. She has a wealth of knowledge. So if you need some help, if you need to talk to someone, if you need a good therapist, she's your lady. So I will have her link in the description below. And remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And also, you can follow me on Spotify as well. All right, you guys, thank you again for joining us, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye.
really